Hello, and thank you for joining us again for another word from the pastor concerning prayer. In 1 Timothy chapter 2 and verse 1, Paul urges the churches and Timothy to pray for all kinds of people. Listen to what he says. He says, first of all, then I urge that supplications, prayers, intercessions, and thanksgivings be made for all people. When Paul uses this phrase, first of all, it means that what he's saying is of first importance. So we see here again that with Paul, prayer is always of primary importance. Paul's previous instruction to Timothy in tasking him with the work that he was to do at Ephesus included that Timothy was to suppress false teaching, that he was to advance an uncompromised gospel, and he had the job of reversing the decline in commitment that was taking place among some of the church leaders there. And so when Paul uses the conjunction then in the verse that we just looked at, this indicates that there's a transition here to instructions for accomplishing these tasks that Paul has given to Timothy. And prayer heads the list of Paul's instructions here. Correction of false teaching, advancement of the gospel, and the confrontation of declining leaders. All of these things were necessary for the revitalization and the health of the Ephesian churches. And Paul begins by telling Timothy to pray concerning these issues. I want you to note here with me the comprehensiveness of Paul's prayer command. He says, pray for all people. This command is not for us to pray for every person without exception. If you stop and think about it for just a moment, that is not possible for us to do. But what he's teaching us here is to pray for every kind of people, including kings and those that are in positions of authority. If you look at verse 2 of this chapter. This is good and pleasing in the sight of God, Paul tells us, because God desires all people, that is, every kind of people, to be saved and to come to the knowledge of the truth, verses 3 and 4 of this second chapter. Just as the gospel crosses every ethnic and economic and station in life boundary, so our prayers must comprehend people from every station of life. Because God's redemptive purpose comprehends all kinds of people, our prayers should reflect that same comprehensiveness. We pray for the salvation of kings. We pray for the salvation of presidents. We pray for people in every position of authority because they all need to be saved, just like every other kind of people. Some of them especially need to be saved, as is now painfully evident in our own government when you stop and think about it. Paul punctuates this exhortation to prayer with the appeal, quote, I desire, therefore, that in every place men should pray, lifting holy hands, chapter 2 and verse 8. Because the kingdom work of the church is comprehensive, because the preservation of doctrine is vital, and because the advancement of an uncompromised gospel is essential, Paul urges us to a single-minded devotion to holy prayer as the people of God. Beloved, I would submit to you that any hope of recovery from our current cultural and ecclesial or church decline rests entirely in the comprehensive prayer life of God's people. Thank you for joining us. May God bless you.